you've touched on a few things that I'd love to dig into more, just because anytime I sit down with someone who has a different discipline than myself, it's interesting to find out like how you do measure growth and how you do measure success, which I think is something that we all probably need to think about and also need to define in our own kind of ways. So I mean, you talked about noticing your own artistic growth in a piece. What does that mean to you? Like, how do you measure growth as a potter or as Sinclair?
Hmm. So there is a like general, does this function? Like, is this fulfilling its function? Is the mug mugging? Is the cup cupping? Does the teapot pour? Does it dribble? So there's this kind of standard functional aspect to it, but you can play around with that function. Like maybe you want the cup to be a little bit heavier so it feels more grounded, or maybe you want a flower pot to be heavier. Whatever. I'm going on a spill on that. So there's that aspect of okay, the function is functioning, and especially when working with clay, you need to make sure that there's no cracks, that there's no pinholing or anything like that. So there's those technical aspects of clay, and seeing growth in that. I can see that literally on the pot. And then there's growth as a like conceptual ceramic artist. Like, is my concept communicating through the pot? I'm a big fan of asking somebody like, what is the pot telling you? Like, tell me one word that the pot
Yeah.
is communicating to you. And I've been getting a lot of like warmth, which is really exciting because that's what I want my pots to communicate. And so having that success of okay, cool, people are getting that message that I'm putting into my pots across. I would say that as I'd see that as a success. And then I would also just as Sinclair success in just still doing this and still making and still exploring, experimenting and doing new things with it. So even just still making, I
Yeah.
see as a success.
I think, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel that. And I think that's probably how we all feel. Like it's like,
Oh
oh, I'm still
yeah.
doing it. That's awesome.
Yup.
That's
Yup.
great. Yeah,
Yup.
I feel that. Another thing that you've been kind of saying throughout our conversation, which I'd love for you to maybe just define or, we can talk about it, is you talk about the information that a piece conveys, the types of information. And I have an idea about what you mean by that, but I'm sure that, we do use the word information in music, but not in I mean, maybe in the same way, but I feel like in speaking with potters over the past few years or being in classes or, people who do it professionally mainly, the information that a pot conveys is a big part of, maybe the intention of it or what you're thinking about as you conceptualize a pot. So can you talk a little bit about what is the information when you say that and what role does that play?
Nice. So if I were to explain this to, like a bunch of musicians who are like, clay, cool, I don't know what that information looks like, I would tell people to look at the texture of the clay. Like, is it smooth? Is it rough? Is it bumpy? Can you see lines in it? Can you see scratches, tears? Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. So there's that information of the actual clay form, right? So is it wheel thrown? Is it hand built? Is it slabs? Is it pinched? So there's that beginning process of how the pot was made. Like, what did the maker do with the clay? Those marks that are left, and sometimes it can get messy. Did the maker like accidentally scratch the pot and like leave the mark in there? Did the pot accidentally get like dropped, or was this bumped into something? Did it get stuck? So there's that information of like how was the clay treated, and then there's the next step, like what glaze did they use? Did they use flashing slip? Did they use a slip? Did they use engobe? Did they brush it on? Did they dip it on? Did they leave their finger marks on it? Did they use decals? And then there's on top of that too, like how is it fired? Pots from an electric kiln speak a different information than an atmospheric pot would.
Yeah.
And specifically with atmospheric pots, more information comes from the firing. Like, was it fired in a soda kiln? Was it fired in a wood kiln? Where was it loaded in the kilns? Like, that is super important in how the pot is made and that is communicated. Was the pot stacked on top of another? Are there wad marks? Are there flame trails? Are there comet trails? Where did the fire touch the pot? That's another layer of information. And potters and atmospheric will load a kiln specifically in a way that where the fire touches, it leaves that mark, that flashing mark, and that's more information as well. And also after that, how much ash did they leave on the pot? Did they sand it down? Did they leave it rough? How did they clean up the pot? And so there's all of this different information of process. And on top of that, like what design elements did they put on it? Did they draw on it? Did they put words on it? Did they write on it? Did they illustrate? And there's just so many different ways for the pot to communicate something. And really just looking at, okay, color, texture, the weight of it also communicates information too. Is it light? Like a teacup, it's a little bit lighter, so it kind of makes you handle the pot a little bit softer and a little bit more dainty. Whereas like a sturdy stein might be, you might feel more comfortable using that. The rim of a cup, how is that formed? That communicates as well. So and I've left out so much. Like there's a lot of room for information for the pot to communicate to the user.
So information could be a desirable component for
Mm-hmm.
people. People could like want to lean into that and say
Mm-hmm.
like, when you look at my, like, information could be the story that the pot tells.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
people could see all of these different components or elements and say, okay, this is kind of, I have an idea of how this was made.
Mm.
Or so a potter could choose to not give any information away. Like I'm thinking of like a very clean line, but even that, that kind of says some stuff, right?
Yeah, and that communicates something too. That's information of like how much time did they spend cleaning up this pot, sanding it down, making sure
Right.
it was crisp and clean.
Yeah, this whole time I'm like trying to think of like the analogy in music, and I'm sure, it's like evening time on a Monday. If I was fresher, someone might be listening to this and say, "Oh, I can think of some analogies," but it's hard for me to like think of a true analogy in music because for the most part, not necessarily all the time, but for the most part, I think most music is presented in this like fully complete state that does not say anything about the process of how it was made. I'm like sitting here with a pen and pencil and erasing and not every little bit of like the story of how I made it makes its way into the final product in a piece of music necessarily. I would say there are ways to going about it where the process of making the piece might reveal itself over time in the music in some way. But even then, yeah, I don't know.
I'm, I'm not a musician. I wish I was, but I would think that with music, the information comes from the feeling and emotion that's communicated, like the high highs and the low lows, the transitions between periods, the feeling and emotion of the creator of that piece. That information is there. Maybe there's references to something, and I think that clay kind of works the same way, like however the maker was, like were they feeling angry? Were they just like harsh with their pots and that's communicated and that's information on the pot. So I'd say that like it does reflect how the maker is feeling at the time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Klein, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.